Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. As we promised, today we are discussing the Volkswagen cousin to the Skoda Kodiaq. Kartik wanted to separate the two cars out so that they didn't confuse each other and confuse us. So here we are. First, what does this Tiguan word mean, man? What kind of names are these? I can't even remember the spelling. Is it T-I-G-U-N Tiguan or T-A-I-G-U-N Tiguan? Is it the larger one or the smaller one? I just get confused.
The formula that you applied, this is the one without AI.
Got it. If it has AI, it's the smaller of the two cars.
Correct.
That's how you remember it.
So this is the bigger one, the more expensive one. That's the imported one.
Is this the most expensive Volkswagen on sale right now?
Yes.
What is the R-Line? R as in MotorInc's special trim?
As usual, yeah, with anything with an R or an S means it's the sportier version, and so it's the R-Line.
So not like the KTM R where the R was added because KTM says R means spoke wheels.
No. This is clearly meant to be the sportier Tiguan.
And it's the only Tiguan. There is no non-sporty Tiguan on sale.
Oh wow, man, show me. I was going to break this flow up into 3 sections, and
we can answer each of these questions later if you have a better flow in mind. That's not a problem.
And you've hit upon 2 of them straight up in the first 5 minutes.
No stress. Where would you like to begin?
So, do you want to start with the first look actually, because he was there when the car arrived?
Yeah.
And we were both standing when the car drove in. And I think that's a good place to start.
All right.
What did you think about it?
It looks a little bit rounded for what I thought of Volkswagens.
Correct.
We have this forest green kind of color. I love this color, which is sometimes gray in some light and sometimes it's green in some light. I really like those colors. This band that I wear is roughly that color. I really like them. And then this weird green Volkswagen rolls in and I'm like, that's a little round.
Correct. So in terms of design, I think the clear difference is that earlier it was all straight lines and angular, whereas now it's become more flowing. It still looks good. I think it's a different kind of look. Muscular, sporty. That's the more kind of feel it has. And I think the compliment I keep giving it in my head is that it has a Porsche theme to it, right? You know, it has that kind of flowiness about it. And that's a lot of praise, but it has some of that streak in it. So every time I look at the car and I think that, hey, it's a good looking car, very different looking Tiguan, but it's a good looking car. And the color, I think especially that color is really working for it. They have 6 other colors. There's a bright red and white and whatnot. And the India spec car that we are getting is the R-Line. And I mean, they have R-Line globally.
This is what? Low line, mid line, high line, R line.
They have, sorry. I don't know what the other names are. But the R-Line gets a special bumper, which is that sporty, big bow tie thingy to make it look sporty. And that's the big difference from what the standard Tiguan would be.
Got it.
The other thing for the India market is that we are getting 19-inch wheels, which are 1 inch larger than what the Tiguan had earlier.
Okay.
But 1 inch smaller than what they have globally on the R-Line, which is a 20-inch, right? So I'm glad that they stuck to a smaller size. They came down a size. But those wheels look good. And like we saw on the Kodiaq, we'll draw some references. We'll talk about the Kodiaq later, where it had those special wheel covers and all of that. This doesn't have any of that. Handsome looking wheels. So access to the valves and all is easy. And one of the first things I checked on the Tiguan was that where's the tire pressure label, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't checked out the Kodiaq MotorInc First, then you'll know why we're talking about this. It's on the front driver door, where it should be. So things are normal here, back to normal, and I'm super happy because I was thinking if the Kodiaq has it where it has it, then maybe it's changed here as well. But that's not the case. It's where it is supposed to be. It gets funky, those IQ lights as they call them. So when you turn on the car, they kind of swivel up and they go left, right and all of that. And
to what end?
That also we'll come to. So I'm just giving you the lay of the land, so to speak. And it has similar those LED tail lamps, which somebody said reminded them of the Grand Vitara. And I was in splits because it's true. The design layout is kind of like that. But it's a good looking car. Okay. So that's...
But if you add an R to the Grand Vitara, you do get the Grander Vitara, right?
Grander Vitara. For sure. So now I will come to the first idea that I want to deal with when talking about the R-Line.
Okay.
Octavia VRS.
Oh, really?
Right? So Octavia, and then we get the VRS, which is the sporty Octavia. So if you think about the R-Line like that, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
It's an SUV, which has become a sporty SUV. And so for people who wanted a more performance-oriented, a more exciting car, this will work.
Okay.
Because not only does it look sporty, what VW have got on this, which is the big difference from the previous Tiguan, is that this also has the adaptive suspension, or what they call it as DCC Pro, Dynamic Chassis Control Pro. Earlier, we used to get drive modes on the Tiguan. This one has drive modes plus that chassis control.
Got it.
So you've got adaptive suspension. And it's clearly setting the mood for the car. Even when you get into the car the first time and you start driving it, even in comfort mode. So it's got the usual presets, eco, comfort, sport, like that. So there's stuff to learn in the car as you drive along. So I put it in comfort. I was driving it around and I was thinking, yeah, this is a little, like even in comfort, it's feeling sporty.
Okay.
Right? You can feel the little bit of, like how our roads are never properly smooth.
Yeah.
So you feel that
little bit
finer
of feedback
movement.
always.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of happening. So it's like, okay, it's feeling sporty even in comfort. But how much of it is the tire? Right? And how much of it is the suspension? So the more time I spent with the car, I realized that this suspension has that little bit of firmness about it at low speeds over the smaller broken stuff. But the incredible part about it is that when you get to the rougher stuff or anything that gets big, you don't have to increase speed, or it doesn't have to be that, okay, at speed it gets better and at lower speeds it's not. Anything, even at low speeds, if you get something big, it immediately adapts.
Right.
So the suspension never gets uncomfortable.
Got it.
It never gets rude. Like, to the point, I was just thinking that, imagine you bought this as a car for your family. And then will your family complain about it? Like, let's say your parents or your wife saying that this was an indulgence that you made.
This is your line. This is not our line.
Correct. It's not our line. They will never get to that point.
Got it.
You will hear the tire, you will hear the suspension work, and like we saw the Kodiaq, you hear the suspension here as well. But it's a little bit more apparent, and that is down to the tires.
Got it. So let me just clarify what he's telling you in terms of tech. What he's saying is these are adaptive shock absorber units. And what they basically do is, as the wheel starts to move the suspension into the stroke, the vehicle can calculate how to respond to this particular movement. So when a large bump arrives, you'll have basically a fast movement in the stroke, and the suspension will be very quickly able to adapt rebound and compression to take care of it. Sometimes it is calculated per shock. Sometimes it is calculated as a set of 4 shocks. Sometimes it is calculated using an IMU type of device, which lets the ECU know what's the attitude of the vehicle right now and which shock to adapt to what state to give you this feeling. There are multiple ways to do it, but they all achieve the same result depending on the preset you're using, which sets the roll idea for this particular mode, how to adapt the suspension for this particular situation, and depending on the sophistication of the suspension, this can happen multiple times per second.
Correct.
And the more times a second it can adapt, the more controlled the vehicle stays.
Correct. So the step up in terms of technology also with this one is that earlier they used to have a single valve design for the adaptive suspension. That's a 2-valve design. So it can adjust better, faster.
Correct.
So it feels very accomplished because of the suspension setup. And the reason why the Octavia VRS comes up here for me is because the Octavia VRS was fun, but at the same time, it was still usable.
Right.
It didn't go so hard that it became unfriendly. Like you could take your family out with it. You would know it's a sportier machine, and that's with standard suspension, right? It could still manage to do that.
Right.
But by virtue of being a sedan, it has more, it has more latitude to accommodate that way. Right? Because it's lower, so the center of gravity is lower, so it has to work less hard to manage all of this. Whereas on an SUV, it's taller, heavier, so it has to work harder to manage all these things.
Right.
So, which is why the Octavia aspect to it. Now, with this electronically adjustable suspension, it has the presets for comfort and sport, and I'll put up that shot of the screen. The incredible part is, comfort is not the softest setting.
Eco is.
No, there are 3 more settings under that. It's a gradation. It's a 15-step gradation.
Got it. Okay.
So comfort sits at the 4th point and sport sits at the 4th point from the stiffest.
Got it.
So you can go to comfort and you can go below that.
Yeah.
And when you go to below comfort, you actually feel like this slight sinky feeling that starts coming in.
Got it.
But I don't think that's actually the better setup.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel like it's more plush,
Yeah.
but you end up having more movement.
Yeah.
So comfort, you go up from that to the midpoint, you'll probably find a good balance of where to sit. Though I enjoyed using the car in comfort,
Right.
basically. Sport, now this is the part where it gets really interesting. Because when you go to sport, this thing's body control just tightens up.
Got it.
There's like, you can go in corners and you can attack and it will just stay flat. And it feels, it reminded me, in fact, when I went to the hardest setting, I thought back to the Audi RSQ8 because I remember that car for its, like, it made you sick after some time because when we were shooting the RSQ8, we were doing corner shots, right? Driving around corners quickly. And my colleagues then who were shooting, they were like, "Arey, go faster, the cars, there's no drama only in the shot."
Correct.
Right? Because that car would just go around the corner.
Yeah.
And so inside the car, I was getting moved around, but the car just stayed absolutely flat. And that, not in that kind of committedness, fierceness, I would say the RSQ8 was fierce. But in a similar vein, this Tiguan suspension does the same thing.
Nice. Very nice.
So it's as a chassis for somebody who wants to drive, and the way the suspension works, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So just to further clarify and underline this point, my Multistrada had adaptive suspension, and what I would very quickly fall into the pattern of is in Mumbai, where the roads are always small ripples, I would go to the comfort mode, as it were, to take an equivalent from the Tiguan, and then go to the softest. So lots of movement, but at least I wouldn't feel it. But on the highway, this became too much to deal with. So I would know that I will exit, say, Panvel, and as soon as the roads there start, which are tarmac, I would immediately switch to touring mode and have a completely different suspension setup. And then near the toll booths where there was lots of bad surfaces, then I'd switch to enduro mode because that absorbs more movement, but it absorbs more. So you quickly learn to play with the mode settings and you know exactly what you want to do next. So 15 steps from comfort to rock hard suspension sounds like a lot, but what most owners will discover is there are 3 places on this spectrum that I am happiest at, and that will be the end of that.
Correct. And there is an individual mode setting. So in that you can customize whatever you want and leave it at that. The thing that I want to highlight in all of this is that even in sport mode, it does not get root.
Yeah.
It's only in the hardest setting, that's where it starts feeling
Correct.
jittery. And that's over time you realize that, yeah, this is, so we started doing that blind test. Can I guess which level it's at or which mode it's at? You can. But at the first go, it will not be so obvious to you.
Yeah.
So it's a very good setup. And along with that, we come to the all-wheel drive aspect of it.
Okay.
So this also has that multi-plate clutch at the center and electronically transfer torque and all of that. But this, you realize now how it sharpens things up.
So this is like an on-demand 4-wheel drive system.
It's an always on. So it acts.
But it transfers power front and back depending on what you're up to.
Correct. So we asked VW about how they are splitting torque between the front and the rear axle as default or by modes, but we don't have that. As soon as we get info, we'll put it in the comments. But the interesting thing is, like I told you, the Kodiaq was like, I said it was fun, but not sporty. Here, clear-cut sporty.
Right.
Again, with the all-wheel drive system as well, you can change the settings of that. So in sport mode, it changes the 4x4 system also to a sport setting.
Got it.
So where it's aggressively transferring more torque to the rear.
Yeah.
So this around corners, like I would say you could carry 20-30% more speed than I did in the Kodiaq.
Right.
And you could just do it.
Yeah.
So the difference between the previous Tiguan and this is that this is clearly meant to be driven, and for somebody who wants a sportier connect car.
Got it.
It's a very different personality from the older Tiguan for sure. Okay. Now, coming back to the Octavia VRS idea. The thing that's missing here is that the engine is the same 201 PS. It's stepped up from what the previous Tiguan was. 2-liter turbo petrol, 201 PS. But if VW really wanted to make a mark with this car and do what the Octavia did for Skoda with the VRS, they should have got the higher spec engine. The same 2-liter engine is available in other markets with 265 or 245 PS or something like that.
That
right?
would have been a more appropriate engine for the chassis.
Because this engine is the one bit that here feels, it's good.
Why did they benchmark the XUV 700 for this engine?
XUVs,
Well, it is a 200 bhp engine in it.
yeah, it is. Correct. Also 4-cylinder, 2-liter. So in this entire story of great looking car, good on comfort as well, while being fantastic to drive around corners. Oh yeah, and the steering also has modes, so it weighs up, and in sport it's not too heavy, but feels good to hold and steer. So everything's working.
So on the chassis front, it feels like the sporty R-Line that it's supposed to be, but the engine is fast, but not exciting.
Not exciting.
Got it.
So even this engine feels a little mild. Now, the one thing that I will highlight, and you can easily see that every time, like let's say you're in the city, you're stopped. When you know you got to get going, you will try and preempt it because you know there'll be that slight bit of lag
Got it.
between you going on the gas and the car actually getting
You're
going.
adapting to the engine. The engine is not adapting to you.
So when you drive quickly, you find that the engine does the work, but it's not in the same mood as the chassis, the suspension, the steering.
Got it.
In sport mode, of course, the gearbox will become more, let's say, holds onto gears longer. It'll feel a little bit more responsive, but it's not sporty, which the rest of the car is.
Got it.
Right? So it's the engine that is actually stopping the R-Line from really being that halo VW that it could and should have been. I think because given our conditions, that this formula of an SUV that can also be fun for some people, and as it is, this is not a car that's going to be here in big numbers.
Right.
Right?
They could have just gone all the way.
Yeah, they could have done the R-Line right that way. So that's the first part of this conversation, which brings us to the second part. And that's VW's lack of commitment to the big vehicles, the premium vehicles for India. Because what does the Tiguan stand for today in India? Can you say it with certainty?
No.
I can't.
I can barely spell it.
Because you think about it, they first came with the Tiguan, then they came with the Tiguan Allspace, then they came back with the regular 5-seater Tiguan, and now we have the R-Line. Because the difference is that they're bringing them in as imports.
Right.
Whereas Skoda with the Kodiaq is assembling them here in India. So there is a regular flow of Kodiaqs coming to India.
Correct.
Whereas in the Volkswagen case, it's random, and I think it is a case of allocations. So what we end up getting in India is on the basis of what is available to get to India. Right? The right-hand drive versions with the right spec, which will work for India, and things like that. Which is why this R-Line today, let's say you like this R-Line, but you say, I don't have the money for this today. I will buy it a year down the line. Will you get it a year down the line?
Correct.
By then, you'll probably get the regular Tiguan.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably get that. But will that then work for you?
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know.
Correct? So I think the idea of the Tiguan today is not being served well enough as to what it could and should be. Imagine the family here as the regular Tiguan, the R-Line, which even the Kodiaq has, right? They have the sport line. It's not really a sporty car, but they have a sport line, which has a flavor of sportiness. You don't have that sense of what the Tiguan could be in the Indian market. And you see that in strange ways with this car as well.
I think it's more than just this car, right? The Passat came and left. The Jetta if you prefer, came and left. The Phaeton came and left.
Yeah.
And this has happened over and over again, where you would say, oh, the larger new Passat, such a good car to drive. And it's not on sale anymore.
Yeah.
And then the Jetta came 2 times. I think there was the old Jetta and the sharper new Jetta. And
we've seen this, and it's strange to think that we're here even some 20 years now.
I think the Touareg also came and then disappeared.
Yeah. I'm saying that at least these cars, which you can see that there is established demand of some sort, right? I mean, a given volume is there for it. That this is also not fully committed into.
Yeah.
Right? So this, you will see the strange impact of it in different ways with the product. For instance, you remember we saw it looked so cool, and I was like, all right, I'm going to drive this. And I go and open the door and then I'm looking for where's the
Request button.
or the touch point where it senses the request. There's
Push.
no keyless entry.
First you have to do push.
And that's when I focused on the key, and I'm like, oh, this key is a Skoda key. It's the same key that you've seen on the Octavia, on the Kodiaq. It's the ditto same key with just a VW logo on it. Okay, so you get, okay, so that's one thing in the car. Then you get inside and you look at the seats, manual. Manual. Everything except for lumbar support on that seat is manually adjustable. There's no powered functionality at all. Then you start browsing around the car, and then you realize that this too doesn't have a proper tire pressure monitoring system. It doesn't have a 360-degree camera. It's 50 lakh rupees ex showroom.
The X-Trail is better equipped.
Did that have a 360 camera?
I don't know.
So the 360 camera, then again checking out the car. Then I went to the boot and I'm like, and I'm waiting. I'm like, khul kyun nahi raha hai? And I'm like, okay, stuck or what? Then I realized that it doesn't have motorized boot opening, right? So even that is not there. It's just like, this is so strange. This is so strange to have in a car like this, right? And yeah, it just puts you back like, what were they thinking? And which is why we broke this up into ideas. And this is the reason is we are getting these cars as VW India can source them from the global company. Okay. You get into the car. Now, this is the part that is about the experience in the cabin. And it has a 15-inch touchscreen, which is like a laptop sitting on your dashboard. And this is an optional extra.
But it is black and white because they didn't spec it correctly.
No, it's fully rich, everything. And with the R-Line, I think globally you get a 12 or 13-inch screen, something like that. So they've opted, or whatever, they got allocated this spec with a 15-inch screen. The good thing about the screen is because there are no buttons whatsoever in the car. Everything is through the touchscreen. The great thing with this unit is how they have done the user interface.
Didn't Europe just pass a law saying all cars have to have buttons? Is that why we got this car?
They better adapt quickly. I don't know when it comes into effect from, but this is did have the hazard button because the requirement is for certain specific buttons to be physical. So I think the hazard switch has to be physical. Something else like that. A few
lumbar support.
Few key buttons that have to be there. So this car has no buttons for your usual controls. Everything is through the screen. The good thing, and credit to them, they've done it well. They haven't just thrown that screen in there for the sake of it. The UI, what it does is, it has two bands, one at the bottom and one at the top, which has all the controls that you'd usually have in switch form,
right,
as digital switches.
Got it.
And they are always there. Whether you're an Apple CarPlay or whatever, they are always there.
Nice.
So you quickly get used to it. And there are some lovely shortcuts that they've done for quick settings in the car. You can easily get in and out in like 5 seconds.
Got it.
Get your work done and out.
Nice.
So that's the good thing about it. So that screen being there, it's done well. It looks large, but they've used that real estate well. The seats themselves, interesting thing. And this is why sometimes I just get so annoyed with car makers because they just feel so lazy. So even though this is powered, this is not powered, it has seat base angle adjustment. It's a separate, so at the front of the seat, there are 2 levers. On the left is the lever to slide the seat back and forth. And here on the right is another lever, which when you tug at it, it changes the angle of the seat base.
Right. This is the usual pump lever that is usually at this corner. Now it is in the front of the seat.
No, what is on the side is to adjust the seat back recline.
Correct.
And seat height. So there are 2 at the side, any which way.
Okay.
So the recline is also not a lever, it's a knob, which is that old school European style thingy. So it has a lever on the side to adjust seat height, but you have an additional lever here, which is to adjust just the angle of the seat. So all that is there, but it's manual. Now I'm just thinking, man, why can't more people do it in manual form at least on their cars?
Correct. That's to karke do.
Samne karo, piche, do it for the front seats, do it for the back seats. How it will change the experience, right?
Yeah.
So the seats, very different feel from, again, actually the whole cabin experience says to you that this is a more intimate and sporty kind of car. because
Got
the dashboard is high. And because of that screen in the center, that also gives you a little bit more. It closes the sense of space around you. Not that the car is not spacious.
Right. But in feel, it feels like a more compact, more sporty cabin.
Yeah. It's a largely black cabin. So that also adds to that sense of being closed in. The seats, single piece seat back, and it has a sporty shape. And I think for wider frames, it's going to feel a little snug.
Because the bolsters intrude.
Yeah, because it's aggressively shaped. So even for me, it was fine. But I think for people wider than me, it's going to feel a bit snug. But the seats are comfy. And this also has that under thigh extension adjustment and all of that. Good seats, but just manually adjustable. So the front has that sporty feel to it. The seats, the way the cabin is designed and everything.
It has power windows, right? Look, I'm not willing to take anything for granted given the fact that the motorized boot on a 50 lakh rupee car is missing. So it's not a silly question, and I'm not making fun of Volkswagen. I'm just trying to make sure basics are in place.
Yeah, so it has powered windows. Also, it has heads-up display. And it has ADAS as well. Oh, yeah.
Annoying?
Dude, it's murderous.
Oh, nice.
They should just switch it off.
So it's basically a global calibration coming to India and getting fully confused.
It will, I mean, I'm not kidding. I thought I would have had a heart attack because in our conditions twice, and I'll tell you why twice as well, it happened. So I was driving around Pune and imagine you're getting out of a signal, you're clearing a signal. So what kind of speed will you be at? There's somebody walking like 50 feet away and pedestrians just run across the road. Right?
Full brakes.
Full, like I'm telling you, heart attack braking. Because on the one hand, you're not expecting it. And the second, as soon as you realize what's happening, you're like, that's it.
You're up in the rearview mirror saying, oh, crap.
So it happened once. So you're like...
Okay, so it's automatic damage acquisition system.
Yes.
So there are 3 levels of ADAS. One is the original one, which is what? Driver assistance system.
Yeah.
Autonomous.
Advanced
driver assistance system, which when it works is actually pretty great. What we normally see is the annoying driver assistance system, which happens to a lot of cars running India calibrations, where if the calibration is good, it's not too annoying. It can be, and there is the global spec, which is the automated damage acquisition system. Those systems simply cannot read our traffic well enough to react predictably. And that means you will have a heart attack inside is one thing, but the car will brake at things which we don't classify as emergencies. And then that lead to all sorts of chaos.
And then the reason why it happened a second time was that the system doesn't say switched off.
So every time you crank the car, it wakes itself up?
Yes.
Oh, God.
And then it doesn't allow you to switch it off while you're driving. You have to come to a halt or be like literally at 4-5 kilometers an hour. At that, you get until that point, you'll get this message saying too fast to change settings or something like that. And you're like, dude. So you have to literally be stopped to change that setting again. And that is really not funny. It is anybody buying this car, trust me, this has to be part of your default routine that as soon as you get in the car, you switch off the auto emergency braking at the very least.
Nice.
You've got lane keep assist as well, which is strong. Again, in our conditions, invitation for trouble at the next level. Switch these off. I mean, don't...
No, sorry. Let me correct that. Keep switching them off. This is the rest of your life if you buy an R-Line.
Yeah. And I get it why Skoda chose to have it switched off on the Kodiaq now. I said, how bad could it have been that I drove this? And I was like, I get it.
But, okay, we'll ask that question at the end. But why is it that the Czechs seem to be smarter than the Germans about how to bring a car to India? But we'll answer that at the end.
That's the entire, this section, right? Because they chose a particular way. And which means that they are being able to get some amount of customization for India. Because this Tiguan
is uncustomized as it were.
Has ADAS as standard, right? So they are just getting it in. They're not being able to get that.
It's because Volkswagen service has such a great reputation that even if your car gets slightly damaged because of ADAS intervention, you'll be fine. You'll feel great that you interacted with them, right? We'll answer that also at the end.
This is a good one. If you have a VW, let us know how the service experience has been. That'll also be good to hear.
Is it virtuous or virtuous?
Okay. So that's again part of this entire picture, right? Why that ADAS is there and why it's trouble and why it shouldn't be there. What's great is the second row of seats. I enjoyed this more than I expected.
Okay.
You get a better sense of space. And again, I'm drawing a few parallels to the Kodiaq because in the Kodiaq, the front seats were very tall, so they kind of blocked your vision. This car had a greater sense of space. It felt wider. And just because of that, I enjoyed spending time in the back seat more.
Nice.
Okay. When you sit in the back, and when I was being driven around, Aditya was driving, he's our colleague, and he was driving, and I was telling him, and we didn't talk about this in the Kodiaq, but people now in the Tiguan, they get massage seats.
Both.
Yeah, both get massage seats. The Kodiaq also has ventilation for the LNK version. The Sportline doesn't have ventilation, but it has massage.
Got it.
Which is the same scene here. You don't have ventilation, you have heating, and you have massage. Yeah, heating. So you have heating and massage. And then massage functions. When I was getting out of Mumbai and heading to Pune, what usually takes about 20-25 minutes to get from office to the expressway took me an hour and 10 minutes. So I said, boss, this is the time to test out the massage function. And then massage function is wild. Like, it's so strong. You can change the intensity and you can change the duration, 30 minutes max, and intensity is whatever. And it was so strong that you're almost getting pushed ahead a little bit, you know, when it's pushing into your back, you're like, whoa. But after some time, you're like, yeah, this is good.
Okay.
So the massage function, really good. But the thing was, when you're sitting in the back seat and looking at the person driving, getting the massage, you're like, this is a bit backwards, isn't it? I want it here. Why should I buy this car, be chauffeured around, and then have my chauffeur getting the massage?
Because we take care of our chauffeurs. We are graceful employers. He has to step out and open the boot for us. He spends half an hour adjusting his seat every day, turning off lane keep and etc. He's putting so much effort. Here, have a massage.
So, and the other interesting thing was that it doesn't have sunshades, but it has those extra dark tint windows, which Shumi cross-checked, and those are legal for the rear windows, so that's fine. So that was the other thing, third zone air conditioning. So the back seat is actually very usable, and despite the sportiness, you will not mind spending time there. As in, once you get over the initial hump of the sound from the tires and the suspension and all of that, you realize you can spend time there easily.
Okay.
Right? Enough room for 6-footers as well. All that is fine. And quickly to run through the dimensional aspects, this car is slightly longer than the older one.
Okay.
Slightly lower. But in terms of cabin space, VW say that they've actually improved headroom and all. So comfort is not compromised. Wheelbase and all is the same. So that all is the same.
So it's not a generation change. It's a big update.
It's 100%. It is a new gen car. It is a new gen car.
But the chassis platform, as usual, has been extended forward in its life.
No, so they've even moved to a new platform. It is the MQB Evo.
Okay.
At least that's what. So it's a new platform that they built it on, and it feels like a new gen experience. The overall weight has also gone down some 70 something kilos and stuff like that. So they've done all of that. Now we'll come to the third chapter, which is about VW Group as a whole. We all know that they went through a tough time post Dieselgate and all of that, and somewhere what we anticipate and expect from them has changed very slowly.
Okay.
Right? So in the sense of what the Tiguan stood for me, it was the quintessential German car experience.
Yes, it was.
Correct?
Yeah.
So glad to hear that, because the other day, Aditya, again, we were talking about cars and we were saying, like we were discussing some car. And I said, it doesn't have that German feel. So he said, what do you mean by German feel?
Yeah.
And the example that I cited to him was the Tiguan.
Yep.
Because between the Kodiaq and the Tiguan, there was a difference back then, clear cut.
Yep.
The Tiguan had that German car feel. It was the doors, it was the quality of materials in the cabin, all of that. It had that tank-like feel to it. That, now when you get into this car, feels dialed down.
Okay.
The doors are still, if it makes a difference, they're still heavy. So that sense of solidity is there. But when you're in the cabin, this doesn't feel like that timeless, classy German feel that you had.
Understood.
Right? Because the dash top materials and all, they are soft, but they're not plush. The dashboard design has this big slab of piano black plastic on it. Sure, it's got backlighting and all of that, but that's stuff that I've never thought of as a German car experience.
Right.
German cars have always had that timelessness about
Yeah.
them, that sense of security and confidence. Right?
Yeah.
So that, I mean, agreed, it's changing, but this is an experience that now feels a little bit different. And so somebody who has the old Tiguan will find a lot of virtue in it, which is the traditional virtues of the brand. Similarly, I feel that the plastics, if you look at the start-stop button, so those are the only few buttons that are there on the center console. There's the start-stop button. There's a round dial, which is also a multifunction switch, basically, to toggle between drive modes or infotainment volume and stuff like that. And then there's the parking brake. The plastic, which is your first point of interaction, that's not great. Then this also has that strange drive selector that we saw on the Kodiaq, which is that stock with that twisty thing.
Right.
It's the same unit and it has the same issues because this plastic feels plasticky. It feels creaky when you use it. It's not that it's functionally flawed, but it just doesn't feel great. And these are your first few touch points.
Of contact, yeah.
And the same thing goes for the door, the grab handle on the inside. It's just plastic. So that sense of richness, where you actually at a point would have wondered that, why would I buy a Q3 instead of a Tiguan? At one point. And genuinely said that, I don't know why. Right? Today, you'll get that perception difference between the two.
So are they repositioning the Volkswagen brand to be clearly more economy oriented than the Audis?
I mean, I'm sure they would want to do that because even the idea that they can sit so close for people is not something you'd want as a company as well, right? There has to be a separation between the two brands. And so that's the last part. It's a small bit, but I think some of those effects of what happened then are seen across the families. And same thing applies even to the Skoda Kodiaq, like we said, the same cheapness of plastics for the stock and stuff like that, which was not impressive. And
this is why Ramu Kaka gets a massage. She has to deal with all of these plastics. So, Baba, you have a massage for free, please. You be comfortable.
So that's the main part of this. And now we come to, how would you think about this versus the Kodiaq? And that is why we kept things separate. We separated the two out. And I think it's clear to me that if you like the Kodiaq, the Tiguan will not work for you.
It's different enough.
It's different enough. It's for different needs. It's for different people.
Is there a price difference?
Very slight. This is about 50 lakhs. So I think the Kodiaq is a lakh. For the LNK is a lakh lesser, lakh or so, and the Sportline is another 2-3 lakhs cheaper.
So Skoda assembling allows them to add more luxury to the car, whereas Volkswagen importing brings them so close in price, but it doesn't have as much equipment as the Kodiaq.
And also keep in mind that the Kodiaq is a bigger car. It has third row of seats. It's also packing in a lot of extras, like, all those, like we said, the boot organizer, the accessories in the car, all that. Actually, they were not accessories, they were all standard, like the tablet mounts, this, that, all the small stuff. That was part of the standard equipment. So the car is packing in a lot more of what most people would find functionally useful.
Got it.
That is why the Tiguan R-Line will be great for somebody whose focus is on driving. So that adaptive suspension is good for somebody who wants a sportier feel car.
Right.
But for most people, the Kodiaq
makes a lot more sense.
Its cabin will look more premium. Those front seats, like I told you, are fantastic for people to travel in. And overall, the Kodiaq, the difference is, not only is it more comfortable by way of, more practical by way of its seating arrangement and all of that, it has a calmer feel in the cabin. Like in the Tiguan, and this is a small thing, but you can hear the engine's intake. So it feels more sporty and connected because of that. You don't get any of that in the Kodiaq. So the Kodiaq is slightly more distant.
Right.
It's a bit more calm. And so therefore, if you want to really travel long distances, that's the car that you'll just get in and not realize anything. You'll just get in and get going.
Yeah, whereas the Tiguan has some personality injected into your experience all the time.
Correct.
Got it.
And it should be something that you're looking for, that you want that kind of a companion with you who's talkative, who's feisty, who wants to go out and let's do something 10% faster, if not 15, 20, you know.
Got it.
So they're two different moods altogether. So that was also very interesting to see how these two cars are sitting. And it would be fantastic if we knew that the Tiguan R-Line will continue to exist in the Indian market over the next 4 or 5 years.
Correct. But there's no way to say.
There's no way to say right now, because this is, even though we've asked VW, we don't have a confirmation of what the numbers, how many units are going to come in, but it is clear that it's going to be limited numbers.
Got it.
Right?
And given the ADAS situation, maybe thank God.
My God, I'm not kidding. I heart in my mouth. You could literally feel it. It was not pleasant at all. Yeah. So that's the lay of the land with the Tiguan R-Line.
I think it's my turn to give you a quick summary.
Okay, before you do the quick summary, couple of things which I have ignored completely. The cabin is practical in terms of not just passenger space, but like it's organized to store stuff. Again, center console, 2 wireless chargers.
So it's not simply clever, it's quite clever.
It's quite clever, yeah. It's in that, exactly in that vein. So it's got that also going for it. The door pockets are nice. Lots of storage around the cabin. What I did not mention in the Kodiaq and should come up, that car also, while it has a 360-degree camera, the resolution is, today you would have Kias, Tatas, Mahindras that offer far better resolution. And in the Volkswagen's case, it's only a reversing camera at that. And we didn't speak about this in the Kodiaq either. It gets auto park functionality. So it'll search for a parking slot and fit into it. I have not tried this on most cars. I did try it on the Kodiaq. I did not bother with the Tiguan, but I can tell you this, that if and when you really need the help of a system like this, it will not be able to help you. Because when it's too cramped, when you're unsure, saying that, dude, it's looking a little fine, it will just ignore that parking spot. It will just drive past that.
Well, it will help you make a decision not to park here at least.
So it needs typically it'll need like 1.5 car widths for it to be able to slot in, to identify a parking slot and say, okay, I can work in this place.
Yeah, so basically it's an aspirational car. So you drive by and say, will a Maybach fit in that? Yes, it will. Then the car will auto park itself. Will a Maybach fit into that? It'll be a little tight. Then we will not park here. We will move on to the next one. Yeah. It's just prepping you for your next car.
Yeah. And this too also has a space saver, which is under the floor. And oh yeah, that was the last thing. Sorry. Boot on paper, massive.
Yeah, obviously there's no third row seats from the same car.
No, but it's also 100 and something mm shorter, 200 something mm shorter than the Kodiaq. So the length is not as much as the Kodiaq.
Yes, but a whole row of seats plus 20 centimeters disappeared, right?
But there's a reason why that number, because when you hear 600 liters, it's a massive number. So you look at the boot and you think, it's not.
That doesn't look like a 600 liter boot.
Yeah, because the second row slides.
Got it.
So if you move the second row all the way forward, there's practically no knee room then. But then you see the 650 liters. So you have that flexibility. Not that most cases you'll need that much of boot space. But yeah, that's the other thing. Done.
So here's the quick summary of the Volkswagen Tiguan R-Line. This car is a completely imported car as opposed to the Kodiaq, which is assembled in India, and that seems to have restricted Volkswagen's ability to spec the car to the Indian requirement. Let me give you the warning straight up front. This car has ADAS and it refuses to stay switched off. Every time you turn the car back on, the ADAS kicks into life. The calibrations are for Europe, and therefore this car is almost constantly panicking, and the emergency automatic braking will keep coming on. Kartikeya had at least 1 near cardiac arrest in the process. 2. And therefore, our recommendation straight away is turn the system off. And immediately the Kodiaq is a superior car because it just doesn't have any of these complications in the first place. Until the calibrations are right, there's no point having an autonomous damage acquisition system on your car, which you've just paid for. So first, if you buy the Tiguan R-Line and you're driving yourself or your chauffeur's driving, remember to tell them they switch on the car and they turn the ADAS off. It has to be done. Otherwise, you're going to be in some amount of trouble. And it's a serious thing. I'm not joking anymore, right? Apart from this, the fundamental difference is this is a 5-seater car, whereas the Kodiaq is a 7-seater. This makes the R-Line a little bit smaller physically than the Kodiaq, but it does give it a substantial boot. It has the second row of seats which you can slide forward and release a large amount of boot space. So it's not an impractical car, but that's not what it's for. What the R-Line represents is one of the sportier flavors of the Tiguan. This is a big difference from the old one. The old one was a nice German-style family SUV. And the R-Line may have siblings that are more family oriented. They are not on sale yet. The R-Line is the sportier version of that. You will see this the most in the behavior of the chassis, which has semi-active suspension, which means the suspension can adapt to your presets as well as what's happening down there. And that works really well. You've got a range of about 15 total settings. So you've got 2 suspension presets, comfort and sport. If you select comfort, the default setting will feel a little bit sporty, not annoying, more like feels, but you can go down from there and make the car much softer also if you want. And if you go to sporty, it doesn't take you all the way to the sportiest setting either. It's a very good setting, but you can make it rock hard and therefore supremely uncomfortable and supremely responsive if you choose to. There's quite a bit of latitude in the chassis, and depending on how you select, the suspension does make a change to what it feels like. It also affects how quickly the steering turns, the weight of the steering, etc. So it's a good comprehensive system that does change the persona of the car. As soon as you start using this, you'll realize that the engine doesn't really keep up with the chassis. It's not a slow engine, but at 207 bhp, it's not as quick as the chassis can be, and therefore this is a reasonably quick, easy to drive car. But when you say I want to exploit all the chassis ability, then you'll suddenly discover I wanted the more powerful engine, which exists but is not on sale here. There is a 245 or a 265 bhp. 265. There is a 265 bhp version of the very same 2-liter engine that is on sale in Europe, which we don't get. If that engine were to be here, then the balance between the chassis capability and the engine's capability would be a lot better, and to me then it would truly be the luxurious sporty SUV that you'd really want. Now, the cabin is roughly the same size as the Kodiaq, but it feels quite different because this is flavored as a sporty cabin. The colors are darker. The front can feel a little bit more compact and cozy. There's a massive 15-inch screen that always sets our alarm bells ringing, but Kartikeya said it is a smart and well-designed system where your basic control sets remain at the top and bottom of the screen. They never really go away. You can set a lot of shortcuts to do the settings that you normally use. So while it does have CarPlay and Android Auto, etc., it doesn't take over the whole screen, so it actually works really well. Some of the basic stuff like the engine start button, etc., on the center console, those remain physical buttons. The driver's seat is fully adjustable, but you got to do it yourself. There are no motors to help you with it. So you've got a lever to set the squab height, you've got a lever to set the seat angle, you've got another lever to move the seat forward and backward, you've got a knob for the seat back. The lumbar support, though, thankfully is electronic, because nobody should have to really, twirl a knob or press a lever to get your lumbar support right. So that part of the seat they have done right. Just like on the Kodiaq, these are massage seats in the front, but not ventilated seats. And Kartikeya said the massage function can be pretty strong and it works really well. If you're stuck in a traffic jam, the music system is one way to distract yourself, but the massage function is also a good way to distract yourself from the fact that you have an R-line going absolutely nowhere until the traffic in front of you clears. Second row, impressively comfortable, can feel a little bit larger than the Kodiaq in some ways, but still remember it's a darker cabin, so it will feel a little bit sportier in nature. But because the front seats aren't overbuilt like they are on the Kodiaq, this will feel like a more spacious cabin from the back row than the Kodiaq. And therefore the R-Line second row, he was actually very happy to be in. And remember, there are no kids in the third row to annoy you in a R-Line because the third row simply does not exist. Fundamentally, this is the picture of the car. This is an imported car, which means Volkswagen's latitude in terms of how they could have spec'd the car seems to have been quite severely limited. So there are a lot of misses on this car. There is no keyless entry, for example, which is a big miss. You have to open the boot lid by yourself. As a motorcyclist, I think it's a very first world problem, but for a 50 lakh rupee car, I think it is an issue. And therefore, the car is making sure that your chauffeur is very well taken care of. Remember, if you sit in the back, they get the massage, you don't. But in the same breath, there are a few misses that don't allow this car to be as luxurious as it could have been. The bigger issue here is Volkswagen's history with their larger imported cars is a little bit dodgy in the sense of what will come, when will it come, how long will it stay is a little bit of an issue. It doesn't mean you won't get support later. By law, manufacturers are required to support customers for 11 or 15 years in the country, which is one of the largest time spans globally. It's usually between 7 and 8 years for most countries. We are at either 11 or 15, I'll have to check. But that means Volkswagen will have parts. They will support you. But if you were to decide, I'm going to buy this R-Line next year because I really like it and I'm just saving the money for it, we don't know if the R-Line will be on sale next year. The big thing you have to remember is If you were looking at the previous Tiguan, this is not a continuous line to this new car. This is a much sportier setup. This is a much more sport-oriented car, including the 19-inch wheels, etc. It is reasonably comfortable. It is nice enough to drive, etc. But it's not a family car yet. What we don't know is the other Tiguans, the Highline, Lowline, Midline, etc. will come here or not. If you're looking for a reasonably comfortable, family-oriented, utilitarian car that has the luxury quotient but drives really well for longer distances, etc., the Kodiaq is slightly less expensive, but it is the better car overall than the Volkswagen Tiguan R-Line.
Well done.
I don't think that was quick, but that was a summary.
Well done. No, there was a lot to cover, yeah. I mean, because even when I was making the notes, there was so much. And while you were going through, I was just thinking, yeah, I missed that. Didn't talk about the sound system. You brought it up.
That's okay.
It's like, yeah.
And what I forgot to mention is the Kodiaq has a quieter cabin than the Tiguan R-Line. So whenever you drive this car, you'll hear a little bit more of the engine, although both the cars transmit some amount of tire noise and suspension sounds into the cabin. The Volkswagen will be a little bit noisier from the engine intake and all of that kind of thing when you start trying to go faster, which is kind of silly if you think about it, because an XUV 700 has more or less the same amount of power, and that's a lot less expensive. Now, why is it, we're done with the quick summary, why is it that it seems like the Czech Volkswagen Group company seems to have a lot more understanding of what an Indian customer might desire than the German car company?
I think for Skoda, we figure in their top 5 markets.
Okay.
Right.
So it's your fault. If you had bought more Volkswagens, we wouldn't be here.
And it's a smaller company, right? Skoda is a smaller company than Volkswagen. Volkswagen is much, much bigger.
Yeah.
So in the scale of things, for Skoda, India became an important market. They committed, right? Even for their imported cars. I mean, so to say, cars that were not made for India. They're assembling them in India for a long time.
Right.
Which is not the case with the VWs.
Got it.
Even though VW was the parent company in India, and the plant that came up was the
Volkswagen plant, right?
That came up, right? So
Chakensburg it was called, no?
Chakensburg. Wolfsburg is the home of VW, and the India plant is in Chakan, but it's called Chakensburg.
Yeah. So there's a Mercedes-Benz factory in Sindelfingen, so I used to call it Chakenfingen.
They also there.
That's
Correct.
next door.
Right. So I think that's just it, because for Skoda they gave more importance and committed.
So what does Volkswagen sell in the country right now? You've got the Tiguan R-Line, you've got the Virtus, you've got the Tiguan, and
that's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Polo, Vento, Ameo,
It's gone.
all gone.
All gone.
All coming back, not coming back.
No.
So,
So I think the one that is expected next, literally next, actually will be the Golf GTI. That's coming.
go to India.
Go to India. So Golf
I know you like that.
Golf GTI is coming, but actually the mass market car that they want is the Kodiaq equivalent, whatever they decide to name it. There are lots of names floating around. So that is the next big car for VW, so to speak.
Got it.
Because it's done a lot for Skoda already. So yeah.
Okay. Last question. What does Tiguan mean?
You know, my usual answer to this is, how do I know? This is your subject of interest.
But what I like about Kartikeya is he takes all of my questions seriously enough to do some research on it, as you're about to see.
I didn't know about this, okay, because he asked, I looked it up. It's a combination of tiger and iguana. And when I came to know that, I lost a little bit of respect for Volkswagen. I was like, no, man, it can't be that lame.
A big cat and a lizard.
Yeah.
What do you get if you cross a big cat and a lizard? You get a luxury SUV, apparently.
So that's what Tiguan is. I learned something today.
And on that very interesting genetic modification note, I think we're going to call it today.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah.
All right. If you have any questions that we haven't answered about the Volkswagen Tiguan R-Line or indeed the Skoda Kodiaq, please leave us a comment as usual. We prefer you do it on the app because it's easier for us to track and have a conversation there. But wherever you comment is welcome. We try and respond to all of our comments. We should be back with more cars very shortly. Let's see if Kartikeya has a list for us before we sign out. What cars are coming next, Kartik?
So, in the process of asking Volkswagen about the queries that we have regarding the Tiguan, and which includes Tiguan, not Tiguan, which includes what will the service cost be like, what will be the parts availability since it's a CBU, etc. All of that. We also came to know that they are planning something for the Golf GTI, which we may end up driving. That's that. From Kia, there's the Carens, not the facelift, but the new higher spec Carens. So whatever that.
What you like to call the Carens limousine.
Correct. So that is there. Then after that, we have the Altroz facelift, and there will be the Harrier EV in June. So I don't know when you end up watching this.
Yeah, that's okay.
So that's the sequence of cars that we have, and I think there might be a couple more in the wings.
Maruti is not doing anything?
That's what. The Maruti and the Toyota, those two are the ones that are a little bit of a question mark.
Okay.
The EVs. But they've been promoting them. The cars are out on display, different places. It's there on their website, saying soon. So I think that's not too far away either.
So Grand Vitara happened, Grandeur Vitara we discussed today, and Grande Vitara is coming next.
Grande Vitara, yeah. Oh, I've forgotten the name also already, to be honest. E-Vitara, it's just E-Vitara. Correct.
Yeah, so Grande Vitara.
So yeah, that's the basic lay of the land for now.
No, I'm in the same place. Vehicles are coming and going.
Arriving. Good.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, you want to check the app, because the app sometimes has MotorInc First that we finished doing, and we don't have a logical place to release it on YouTube yet, so it's waiting a couple of weeks before it comes out. It might actually be even outside the members in the app, so just check. I'm not promising everything will be free to air. Eventually, MotorInc First generally does become free to air, but on the app, something might already be free to air, which is not available on YouTube yet. Just double check once. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Thank you so much for watching. This has been MotorInc First.